He has mental illness. When we think of mental illness, sometimes we can work around it. But when you hear the word schizophrenia, then all of a sudden, that's a more serious level of what you would call mental illness. Well, I've interviewed doctors that said, that schizophrenia is something that has to do with syphilis. And I've had doctors come on and talk about other things. But when Dr. Thomas Levy writes an article about the commonality between schizophrenia, chronic encephalitis, and niacin, I had to reach out to him and I said, okay, it's time to come back into the classroom and share your wisdom. And so today, we're going to be learning about this with Dr. Thomas Levy. Hi, my name is Lillian McDermott, and I am a certified life coach and the host of the Lillian McDermott radio show, Classroom. If this is the first time that you've been in the classroom, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, as I said, Dr. Levy is writing articles left and right, publishing them. And this one really struck because I know some people that have children with schizophrenia, a son in particular, and it causes them to do things that are unheard of. Nothing to do with the upbringing, nothing to do with the people that have lovingly raised them. So Dr. Levy has published an article, and I believe that this is a conversation that all of us need to hear. It's a very hopeful conversation. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. Thomas Levy is back to do just that. Thank you so much, Dr. Levy, for coming into the classroom today.
Hi, Lily. Always happy to come. Always happy to be here.
I'm so grateful to you. Okay, so I received this article probably about a week or so ago, and I read it because just recently I did, I would say at the beginning of the year, maybe sometime in the middle of the year, I did a show with a doctor who says that syphilis is really, or schizophrenia is really syphilis. And that's what happens. It's the cat scratched by a cat. And so I thought, well, this is only one person talking about a different perspective of schizophrenia. So let's talk about this article and why you felt that you wanted to write it, or your published article.
Well, there are a number of reasons.
Okay.
One of the primary reasons is that Dr. Abram Hoffer, many years ago, showed that niacin, vitamin B3, when properly dosed, would completely cure schizophrenia a majority of the time. Let me repeat that: completely cure schizophrenia a majority of the time. And the rest of the cases would be substantially improved. And this, of course, brings us to what Dr. Hoffer embraced as well, which is the field of orthomolecular medicine. And that's what this particular article and case emphasizes as well. So what is orthomolecular medicine? Orthomolecular medicine is the idea that all diseases, all of them, are due to deficiencies of natural substances, vitamins, minerals, and other nutrients, and that when you can replete and restore those vitamins, minerals, and/or nutrients, if the disease has not progressed so far that irreversible tissue damage has not taken place, you can expect to get a complete resolution of that disease. Whereas, quote unquote, modern or traditional medicine truly, and I don't say this to be snide or nasty, really makes practically no attempt at all to understand the pathophysiology of a disease, why it's taken place, and instead they've just come up with countless drugs that, for one reason or another, due to their chemistry, will make a symptom be lessened, but absolutely do nothing for stopping or reversing or slowing the underlying disease process. And what I point out in the article is a couple things here. Is the perfect examples of this is vitamin C and magnesium. The recommended daily allowances of these two supplements are incredibly low, yet as we've discussed much in the past, taking high multi-gram doses of vitamin C and high multi-gram doses of magnesium, those two things alone can bring your health to levels that most people have not experienced in the past. But what happens? The governmental recommendations tell us take a tiny amount and you're okay. And it's a double whammy because when people say, well, if they're recommending such a tiny amount, it must mean that I got to be really careful with this. I better not take too much because only a tiny amount is needed. Well, that concern keeps supplements like vitamin C, magnesium, and what we'll talk about, niacin, severely underdosed and depriving those people who don't take it of enormously incredible benefits that they should be realizing if they just had a truly normal, not recommended daily allowance, but a truly normal level of vitamins and minerals and nutrients in their body. Now, the thing about schizophrenia that I want to point out at the outset is, well, first of all, the comment that you made earlier, well, syphilis is one of very, 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 very many things that could end up disturbing brain metabolism to the point of getting schizophrenia. It's hardly a reflection of even the tiniest percentage of schizophrenics as we know it today. But schizophrenia, as I think you realize, Lily, and most people should realize, is not only an enormously devastating disease, completely destroys the life of the person involved, largely destroys the quality of life of the family surrounding it and the loved ones, and societal problems. Okay, you know, I'm no expert on this subject, but I dare say the homeless populations and all the other stuff that we're seeing in the big cities, I would say the vast majority of them, while not being necessarily fully schizophrenic, are severely mentally disturbed and on the types of diets that they have absolutely no possibility of ever returning to a normal mental state and becoming a functioning, contributing member to society. And this goes too for the mass killings, the shootings, same thing, okay? Even when it's not schizophrenia, and we'll cover this in a moment, restoring niacin levels in your body actually lessens all mental disease, all psychological disease, all psychiatric disease, because they're all branches of the same process. It's just in one particular person, there's more of factor X going on than factor Y. But the bottom line is we're used to thinking of, well, if you take this, you lower your blood pressure. If you don't, your blood pressure goes up. We think of things being physical and affecting physical things. Well, the fact of the matter is ideas are real and emotions are real. And they come from a brain that's a physiological organ. So even though we may never understand how a physiological organ produces an idea or a sentiment or a feeling, the fact of the matter, it does. But what we do know about is what it takes to sustain that organ in a normal physiological state. So what Dr. Hoffer showed and what is outlined very carefully in the article is that niacin, or one of its related components, and I talk a lot about niacinamide, let me say at the outset, so people don't get turned off, a lot of people get a hot flush sensation when they take niacin. Well, don't despair. If you take it and you get that and you don't feel you can deal with it, you take the related compound called niacinamide, also a form of vitamin B3, and you'll get all the positive effects that we're talking about most of the time. Now, what happens is in all disease, but especially in the brain that consumes enormous amounts of energy, the primary form of energy everywhere in the body is ATP, adenosine triphosphate. And if you have, and this comes from the mitochondria, we hear a lot about these days about mitochondrial dysfunction, mitochondrial fatigue, mitochondrial disease. Those are all very valid terms, but they really all refer to the same thing. They all refer to the fact that inside the mitochondria, you have something called the electric transport chain. that takes the food substances from the Krebs cycle and then pushes them through these 4 steps until you get to the final step that allows the formation of ATP in large amounts. And that's the bottom line. Are you making enough ATP or are you not making enough ATP? If you are, no matter where the cell is, it's a normal cell. If you're not, it's an abnormal cell to a varying degree, depending on how severe the deficiency is. Okay. Now, without going into a lot of needless and perhaps confusing detail, these steps 1 through 4 in the electron transport chain are affected very profoundly by specific nutrients and supplements. The first stage processes something called NAD, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. But hey, that's not important. It's the substance that powers the beginning part of the electron transport chain. And like any other chemical reaction, if you don't have enough substrate, if you don't have enough substance to work on, you can't make anything work. In other words, you can't burn a big fire if you don't have a lot of fuel. So you have to have a lot of fuel before you get the fire going and before you get the reaction going. Well, as it turns out, there are many, many, many known benefits of niacin and niacinamide in the body, and they almost all pertain to the fact that niacinamide is the primary building block for NAD, which is the first part of this energy generating electron transfer change inside the mitochondria. And that's what Dr. Hoffer found at the time, many years ago, back in the 50s and 60s, as a matter of fact, is that when he took niacin, now let me tell you, just to point out how ridiculous this is, now, recommended daily allowance is 14 milligrams. 14 milligrams. What somebody should be taking if they already have a compromised status in their brain, whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, whether it's a lot of the different autistic kids, their problems too, or whether it's something where you have intermittent psychosis like schizophrenia, you should be taking on the order of 3 to 4 to 5,000 milligrams a day. Okay, so do the math. That's an enormous difference, but it's the amount that you need. It's the amount that you need. And the fact of the matter is, Dr. Hoffer treated many patients like this, got phenomenal resolution. And he defined his cure, incidentally, by not only somebody who lost all their psychotic symptoms, number 1, but number 2, interacted normally with the family. And number 3, a very insightful and important factor is he didn't consider his schizophrenic patients incured until they were able to become gainfully employed. So that was absolutely the clear evidence that they're normal enough to integrate into society, earn a living, and be part of a contributing part of society.
You know,
So go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
When you hear about this, because in your article you state that it was 1955 that these studies were conducted. Now that's a lot of years. That's a lot of years gone by. And, you know, just like when I learned about some of the issues about cancer and the way that this has become too big to fail, the treatment of cancer, it made me angry because I've lost a lot of people to the treatment, not necessarily to the dis-ease. When you hear about this kind of results with niacin, why every doctor who has someone who's depressed or maybe having delusional feelings or visions or whatever, why they wouldn't start this right away. Why has this been, and without getting too controversial, because I'd love for everybody to hear about this on Facebook and YouTube, and maybe we can do an extra edition and put that one in BitChute, and you can really tell me what you want to say. But why would you think that the allopathic community, knowing these results, would not everybody knows this? Why would they hold this behind?
Well, multiple reasons. Number 1 is they don't know the results.
Okay.
And number 2, they reject information out of hand that comes from any but a few sources. The textbooks of medicine, the textbooks of medical therapeutics make zero, zero, zero reference to this. And so many doctors consider everything in those textbooks and manuals to be the gold standard, and that it's not possible for something substantial that would have an enormously positive benefit not to be in there. So it's sad, but it's not surprising. Okay, we see this over and over and over again. The thing is you mentioned earlier about dosing niacin. Well, what we can talk about a little bit more in a moment is that niacin and a couple other things for that electron transport chain in the mitochondria actually dictate that everybody should take it. Okay. I mean, you should be taking something just like we talk about vitamin C. It's ridiculous to take 500 milligrams or less of vitamin C because enormous benefits, including longevity, are awaiting you when you go into multi-gram doses. Mm-hmm. Same thing with magnesium, same thing with niacin. Now, there are other vitamins and minerals where certainly you should take more of them than the recommended daily allowances, but they don't have quite the overall impact that these three things do.
Yes.
So yes, they should all be on it. The thing is the other thing I would say about so many of these docs is human nature, right? As Mark Twain said, you can fool anybody anytime, but you can never convince somebody they've been fooled. Mm-hmm. And too much pride and arrogance and ego is wrapped up into not admitting to yourself or anything else that you've gotten it wrong. Mm-hmm. That what you've done has not been beneficial for your patients. I mean, your conscience may be clear. You didn't know about it. You didn't actively
they don't
ignore
even
it.
Look. They don't go with continuing. The kind of continuing education is being sponsored by the pharmaceutical industry, as opposed to, a natural, unbiased, here are some things. I remember, I don't know if you probably know Andrew Saul, Dr. Andrew Saul,
sure,
because he, dryourself.com. He's also, well, he used to be another
His
regular.
mentor was Dr. Hoffer.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So that's why I was familiar with your work, because when I first met Dr. Andrew Saul, he told me a story, because I started getting on niacin, and after a while I just forgot about getting on niacin until your article. And that's why I wanted to bring this forward, because many years ago I was taking niacin every day. And so what he told us a story about a young lady that was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and they had put her on these drugs and they were making her really sick. So the mom took this young girl to Dr. Saul, and who's not an MD, but he's Dr. Hoffer was his mentor. And so he said, niacin could help your daughter. So he put her on a small dose, and every time he would increase her. Well, during one of these times that during the time before he had seen her and he had adjusted to a little bit more, she started getting thoughts of killing her mom. And she knew that this was not right. And she tried to commit suicide, and she took the entire bottle of niacin. She took every single one of the pills, and it was like he said there was enough niacin to light up the whole state of New York. That's what he said. If I recall it, he tells the story brilliantly. And what happened, it's like, and you know what happened? What happened next? The voices went away. She needed such a huge amount of niacin. But here's the thing. You start taking niacin and stop taking, like I stopped taking asthma medication and started doing vitamin C. Oh, you can have an overdose of vitamin C. Oh, an overdose of vitamin C. And I say, well, listen, I'd rather have diarrhea, which is an overdose of vitamin C, than die from the medications I was on, because one of them was compared to chemotherapy. And I was on that pill on that shot for 9 years. I believe I'm alive today because of doctors like Dr. Andrew Saul, you, and Dr. Cowden, and others that have stepped outside the MD box, the allopathic box. But when he told me that story, I'm thinking, gosh, why doesn't everybody take niacin? So if you don't have schizophrenia, can niacin improve other symptoms? What are other things that, in your article, you talk about other things like dementia and all these things. So can you share a little bit about niacin and other things that may be just health improvements?
Yes, and that was the point that I wanted to make very strongly here. Uh, Incidentally, you don't overdose on vitamin C. If you have a little diarrhea, that's a side effect of having too much in the colon, but it's not a toxic effect like you might get with chemotherapy. So
Exactly, exactly.
people shouldn't confuse the word overdose, just too much for your intestines to comfortably accommodate.
But
So
nobody's ever died from too much vitamin C. But we hear
no,
people die all the time from taking medications for other
sure.
reasons, taking them for the right reasons, right dose, and it still can kill you. So,
Now niacin and a few other things I'll mention before we finish up
mhm.
strongly upregulates and increases the amount of ATP production inside the mitochondria, inside every cell in your body. Okay, and we made the point that when a cell makes optimal amounts of ATP, guess what? It's called healthy. And when it doesn't, it's called compromised, sick, or diseased. So niacin, along with vitamin C, along with magnesium, along with vitamin D, along with vitamin K, all decrease all-cause mortality. They decrease your your chances of dying from anything, which means they're positively impacting the physiology of every cell in your body, not just the cells in the liver, not just the cells in the heart, not just the cells in your brain. So these are all important nutrients that every cell needs. So this is a long-winded way of coming around to your primary question of niacin for other things. Yes, like everything. Okay, everything. Uh, Step two of the electron transport chain has something called FAD, flavin adenine dinucleotide, which is fed by riboflavin, vitamin B2, just like vitamin B3 feeds the NAD. And adding riboflavin supplementation increases its ATP production. And then coenzyme Q10 is the primary part of the third step, and it also positively impacts steps 1 and 2. So high doses of coenzyme Q10. And then guess what? Our old buddy methylene blue, all by itself, powers up the fourth stage. Now, I'm going to get very anecdotal for a moment, but it's my opinion. And it's been my personal experience that since I've optimized my basic supplementation regimen with 3 grams of niacinamide a day, 400 milligrams of riboflavin a day, 600 milligrams of coenzyme Q a day, and 15 to 20 milligrams of methylene blue a day, I have health that I've never experienced before in my life, at least not in my memory. Okay.
Wow.
All sort of problems have just disappeared that I thought I was going to be chronic with for the rest of my life. So even things that just didn't seem right, upset stomach, gas, burning, all of that regulated. And of course, why did it regulate? Because it's improving the health of every cell in the body. So you need things not only that go inside the cell and increase energy production, but at the same time, when you bring in the other things like the vitamin C and the magnesium, so that you neutralize the oxidative stress before it goes into the cell and disrupts and poisons the mitochondria so that the ATP production goes down again, uh, you're going to do well. I mean, I've often joked, but not completely joked, with my friends that my goal is to achieve optimal health before I die. Okay. And I'm not saying something else might come along down the road, but I think this is pretty much close to a formula for that.
Okay, I want you to go through this again, because as you were talking about all these supplements, what you're taking, you're not saying that somebody else should take the same dose. You're just saying what you need, or is that what's
Right.
minimum?
I'm glad you make that point. These are doses that I take. Might be too much for some people. Some people might actually need a little more. A
Okay.
lot of people will do extremely well on less. Okay. So yes, very good point that you made there. I don't want it to seem like I'm recommending this and only
Yeah.
this dose of this. This is only this and this and this and this. Absolutely, you're correct.
So you're basically saying this is like a little kit. If you want to have some supplementation that's going to benefit your mitochondria, and the mitochondria is going to give you prolonged health, this is a nice little kit that you can start with, and then you can decide what is there like a beginner baseline dose?
Yeah, I would say a baseline dose of niacinamide is 500 to 1,000 milligrams. A baseline dose of riboflavin is 1 to 200. A baseline dose of coenzyme Q10 is maybe 200 to 300. And I gave you pretty much the baseline dose of methylene blue, 10 or 15
10 to
milligrams.
15 milligram. I did write
Yeah,
that down. What
okay.
about K? Because you mentioned K, D.
Well, let me just say this. So we've talked a lot about supplements in the past and what I consider to be the most important basic ones. Now, before I go on, I want to say, so people realize this. For example, Swanson Vitamins, company Swanson. Did you know they make over 2,000 different supplements? And they're probably all good for you. So what I'm going to recommend, or what I'm going to say I think is fundamental and foundational, does not mean that if you found another supplement that really perks you up or makes you feel good, am I saying stop that or don't take that? But people are always limited by economics. They're always limited by what their stomach can tolerate. Some people have sensitive stomachs. So I consider now my primary supplementation. Okay. And like I said, there's many, many, many ways to expand upon it, but vitamin C, magnesium, vitamin D, vitamin K2, niacinamide, riboflavin, coenzyme Q10, and methylene blue.
How often do you take methylene blue? Do you take it once a week, every day?
I take it every day.
Every day. So you have a blue tongue. Have you taken it yet? That's the only reason I have not taken it. It's because of the blue tongue. I can't get past the blue dye.
Well, I use a straw. It's not a problem.
Use a straw. So when you use a straw, you are able to, I mean, how much, so you're taking 15 to 20, are you diluting it? What are you doing?
I take 1 or 2 cc's, that's 10 to 20 milligrams, and I put some V8. I like V8. It covers the taste very well. And my own little technique, so that I'm not swishing a lot back and forth across my lips and across my tongue, is I first put it in there, and then I have the straw, and then I have the bottle of V8 right here. So I'll suck it all down, then I'll throw it a little bit more diluted, suck it all down, throw it a little bit more, suck it down, and then I'm through. And that way, there's none passing your lips, and there's none touching the front of your tongue. Well, I mean, you're going to get a little blue on the back of the tongue, but hey,
Like Papa Smurf. I'm going to call you Papa Smurf. I've had people.
I guess so.
Yeah, but I tell you what, I was talking to someone who attended the summit. And by the way, all of you, the summit this year is going to be February 3rd, 2024. And Dr. Thomas Levy is going to be one of the speakers. And I was talking to one of the doctors who attended the summit, as Dr. Grady Goldsby. And he was sitting next to you when you were done speaking, or before you started speaking. He was sitting next to you. And he said, I'm looking forward to seeing Dr. Levy again, because I need to tell him that we have shared his protocol that you shared at the summit, and everybody's gotten well from long haul COVID. And so I said, well, I'll tell him the next time he's in the classroom,
Tell him to
because
write me an email. I need feedback like that.
okay, I will tell him to do that. As a matter of fact, I'll probably be seeing him. I'll be seeing him this weekend. So I will ask him to do that. There are so many things we don't know. even in the Bible, it says in Hosea 4:6, it says, my people perish from lack of knowledge. But it's not, and what people say, what
Lack
it
of
says,
knowledge is one of the worst deficiencies you could have. Yes.
well, but here's the thing, what it says
And
after
lack
that
of
in the Bible.
appreciating that you lack the knowledge.
God. Well, that's very close to what I was going to say, because in the Bible, if you read, because that's the scripture that we understand. My people perish for lack of knowledge. But but people don't say afterwards, it's not that they didn't have it, is that they rejected it. Just like you were talking about earlier. So my people perish lack of knowledge because they rejected the information. And so that is still happening today. That's why I wanted to ask
Very
you that
much.
question. Why, anyone who listens to this class today, they may be curious and maybe say, oh, this doesn't make sense. What I'm saying is, don't believe it. Do the research. I remember when Dr. Andrew Saul came in and talked to me about this, I went on niacin right away. I don't know why. Yes, I do know why. For some reason, Dr. Levy, and maybe you can tell me why, I get really sensitive with vitamin B's. And I know niacin is not a vitamin. It's not, it's not like when you think of the vitamin B, it's not really, but it gives me so much energy that I can't sleep at night. So what is your advice if anybody else out there, maybe I'm the only one, but if there's anyone out there that has that effect, like I was taking it first thing in the morning, and I don't know if it was the stress at the time. I really don't know, but I thought it was the niacin, and I got off of it.
I doubt that, but the thing to do is, as you said, take it first thing in the morning, and then take your relaxing ones at night. Take the magnesium and everything at night, and uh, I mean, I've had my own personal routine. I've been very fortunate in that regard to be exquisitely sensitive to melatonin. And right at the stroke of 10 o'clock in the night, I'll take my melatonin, and by 11:45, I'm going into a coma, and it's wonderful. Okay, so
Mental note. I'll put that on my phone.
but I
Not to
say
call you
that,
after 11.
with melatonin, it's an individual thing. I found some people say it doesn't work for them, but wow, I've been taking it probably for more than 15 years now, and
Every day, every
every
day.
day, every
But you
day.
see, this is the thing that baffles me. My body can handle melatonin, and it can handle maybe CBD or something like that, but not every day. I started drinking a kombucha with kava and hemp, and it was a miracle. I would just take it. It was a nice little drink before going to bed, and then within an hour or so, I would sleep so well. And
But let me before I forget this, let me tell you
okay,
something else too.
yeah,
After I started taking these four things I said in concert with each other, my sleeping improved phenomenally as well.
okay,
So
okay.
just as making energy powers you and keeps you awake, making energy in the right cells at the right time is also the force that allows you to naturally fall asleep. Okay, it might seem paradoxical, but it's not. I mean, everything about being normal means optimal energy production in the cells, and normalcy obviously involves both activity as well as resting as well as sleep.
Hmm.
So the more you normalize the whole package, the more things like that fall into place.
Hmm.
Also, I might add, for the older ones listening to me, um, before there were times in the past, a little personal note here, I'd get up 3 and 4 times a night to urinate. Now, maybe once after 5 or 6 hours, and then go back to bed for the last 2 hours, all done. So, how does that affect your prostate, your frequency of urination? I don't know. I do know, like I said, when you take the right things that do the right things to the cells of your body, guess what? Your body starts acting normally.
We got to give the body what it needs in order for it to do what it needs to do. So I need to figure out if it was the situation at that time that the niacin, because I don't know, I think at that time I had gotten off all my medications. So what happens to me is that I'll take it'll work beautifully. The melatonin will work beautifully one night. If I take it again, then it doesn't. So I
I
have,
think
I, if I,
when you try this, you might, rather than go back to niacin, go to niacinamide. Just
I
go
like,
straight
I
to.
like the flush though. I like the flush.
Oh, okay. Well,
Because here's the flush. Here's what I was told, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. And this is what I understood, that the flush tells you when you've had enough. So if I start, let's say, with a dose of 250 milligrams of niacin and I don't flush, I take 500 the next day. And if I flush, then I stay with that until I stop flushing. So that's what I understood it was. And then you
well,
can
Dr. Hoffer
increase it.
described the fact that most people would flush a little at the outset, and then they'd get used to it. And he had many people on 3, 4, 5, 6,000 milligrams of niacin a day,
Wow, it's
and
a
there was no
lot.
flushing at all. But I mean, he didn't use that as a sign to take the dose even higher. So while I can't tell you exactly what the physiology of the flush reaction is, your approach is probably good at the beginning phases of taking
Just to
niacin,
get to know it, just to know,
but
just to
after
get your
you're on a
body.
gram or two or more, it doesn't mean that you have to push the dose hard even higher, because you're no longer getting the flush
Okay.
reaction.
Okay. That's good. So, okay. So I have so many questions. First of all, I'm glad that you explained the NAD, the ATP, and the FAD, which was we hardly ever hear of riboflavin. We hardly ever, I mean, I could probably check with all my friends, and I bet you none of them take riboflavin. How long have you been taking
And the other
riboflavin?
thing too about riboflavin, just so you know, that's the yellow part of the B complex. So when you take the riboflavin, you're going to start peeing almost fluorescent yellow. Okay, so don't get all upset
So
anymore. Then the blue
between
root,
the
eh,
blue and the yellow,
the
I'll be
blue and the
peeing
yellow, so
green.
it probably means green. No, a funny thing is there's not an abundance of literature on riboflavin on PubMed, but what there is dramatic. What there is dramatic, and goes right along with the fact that riboflavin powers the second step of the electron transport chain and keeps that high production of ATP inside the cell. So no, it's very powerful, very, very powerful. Um,
Well, I was reading your article, and
and it's
after,
cheap. It's cheap and it doesn't upset your stomach. So there's
yeah,
two
well,
really good points for
and
people as well.
and that is probably another reason why the allopathic community hasn't embraced niacin, because you can't make money off of it, because it's just, you just can't.
Well, I got to say this too about supplements in general, and it's sort of like good news, bad news. So if you have someone who doesn't supplement at all, and they take a good, high quality multivitamin, multimineral, that's great. And they'll have benefits from it, and they'll feel better and they'll do better. But it also tends to desensitize people to the fact that in that array of vitamins and minerals are certain minerals and vitamins that you're going to get maximal benefit of if you take a whole lot higher dose. So, somebody will say, well, I get niacin every day. I take a multivitamin, multimineral. Well, if the niacin that you're taking is 15 or 20 milligrams, no. And if the vitamin C inside it is 50 or 60 milligrams, no.
Which is
And the
the recommended
magnesium
daily allowance,
is
60
recommended
milligrams.
daily allowance.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the bad news, good news. Definitely, if you've never supplemented before and your economy is very pinched, it's good to have a good. And when I say good, what do I mean good? I mean a multivitamin, multimineral with zero copper, zero calcium, and zero iron. Okay.
Mhm.
And as many chelatable forms as is feasible, but all that makes the price of it go up. But you need to definitely avoid, as we've talked about many times before, the calcium, the iron, and the copper. But yes, so a good multivitamin, multimineral is great for you, but it gives too many people a sense of false security that they've taken care of their supplementation to their optimal benefit, which is not remotely true.
Well, I tell you what, this is what we talk about here in the classroom, which is how to take your health back, to be your own MD, your own medical detective. We're very fortunate that we have wonderful teachers in the classroom, and I hope that you're taking notes today. I know I am. This is a reminder that I need to go back, and I'll probably find out what a good brand is, but that's not what this is about. You need to do your own research and your own homework, and go to whenyouneedafriend.com. And I am trying to build my email list, and so I ask that you subscribe, because if all of a sudden Facebook or YouTube decide to close down, then you won't know who's going to be in the classroom, because we're going to keep going, because this is such important information. So I need for you to do everything you can to please subscribe, but it's a two-step process. You subscribe at the website at whenyouneedafriend.com, and then you're going to get an email to your email, and you need to opt in. You need to approve or say, yes, I did subscribe to your channel. And so when you do that, you get all of the information that you need. Dr. Thomas Levy, if you are watching today, you already have Dr. Thomas Levy information from peakenergy.com, and you just click on his name.
It's been changed. It's been changed. It's now
Oh,
TomLevyMD.com.
okay. So hold on a second. So tell me about that.
Well, the name of the website is no longer peakenergy.com. It's been changed to my name, Tom Levy, MD.
Do you have both going to both?
No. The Peak Energy has been actually purchased by somebody else. But
wow. Okay.
I
Nice.
had enough interest in using my name already that it was I considered to be a good move for people being even easier to find me.
A lot easier to find you. Well, thank you for clarifying that to me. When I first started on the radio, it was all about, whenyouneedafriend.com. And I went to a course and they said, nope, you need to get rid of that. And I'm like, well, people don't know how to spell my name, so whenyouneedafriend.com is a lot easier than Lillian McDermott. How many L's, how many D's, is it capital D? Is it anyway? So all the roads will take you there. So if you put LillianMcDermott.com, if you put in whenyouneedafriend.com, it'll both take you there. And the same thing. So now that we know it's Thomas Levy, is it Thomas Levy?
TomLevyMD.com.
Oh, so now it's Tom Levy. Tom Levy. You didn't do the JD?
No.
Just one less thing to
Tom
put on.
Levy MD.
MD, yes,
right.
MD.com. Yes. Okay. So with that in mind, go to whenyouneedafriend.com. While you're there, subscribe, like, and follow me on all social media. Share this video with your friends, because the only way we can beat the algorithms is if you make a comment, tag it, put an emoji, whatever you can. They cannot touch us if we show up in active form. So please do that to help out the classroom. Check out my sponsors, support them the way that they're supporting the classroom. Also, you can go to my Shop Now bag and check out all the different workshops that we've done together. Dr. Thomas Levy has done the optimal treatment of disease protocols. That's actually on my my website under workshops. So you'll find the optimal treatment from disease protocol, and also you will find also in the roadmap to health. That is another workshop that Dr. Levy did. So if you want to learn more about Dr. Levy's protocols, go to my workshop page. It's on the top in my website. Also, you can, like I said, go to my Shop Now bag. These are all Lilly approved products, whether some of them are affiliates, but not all of them. I just want you to know that these are some of my must-haves. And then last but not least, you can become an enrolled student in the classroom. And whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month or one-time donation, I don't care what it is. It's just continue to invest in the growth of this classroom, whatever you choose, whether it's your time, your talent, your treasure. Again, like I said, sharing this video is your time. So please do whatever you can to help us grow the classroom. So today we have Dr. Thomas Levy. I am really excited to reacquaint myself with niacin. And it's like when I saw the article, I'm like, okay, well, I know this information. So thank you, Dr. Levy, for bringing it back to the frontal lobe of my brain so that I can start taking niacin. I told
Bring it
Robert that
back to
last
the
night.
niacin depleted frontal lobe.
The what?
The niacin depleted frontal lobe.
Oh yeah, I think so. I think so. And listen, I'll probably take some niacin this weekend, because I'll be really, really busy this weekend. But yes. So now it's
No,
TomLevymD.com. Tom.
TomLevyMD.com.
Okay, you guys heard it here first. TomLevyMD.com. That's where you need to go now. When I went onto your article, I think I did see that, but I thought it was because it was at the orthomolecular. That's what I thought, but I did see that. I just didn't even think about it. And today
Well, that's
before.
where I put all my orthomolecular articles. I've talked with the people that run it a long time, and I said they need a search engine to see where somebody's articles are, and for one reason or another, they were unable to do that. So I have all of my orthomolecular articles on my TomLevyMD.com site. And so when you go to one, you can see the others and you can pick and choose as you wish. Because right now, there's so many articles
You do.
on the
You have a lot.
orthomolecular medicine news site. I'll be honest, I have oftentimes a difficult time finding my own article on there without having to scroll up and down, up and
Yeah.
down, up and down. So that's a good way for me, and it also serves people well who are interested in my writings.
Well, I will tell you that having people sign up and can they sign up and subscribe to your website as well now?
Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
so I want
Same routine.
all of you, in honor of the work that Dr. Levy is doing, just take a moment and say thank you by subscribing to his website. Do the same thing for me, please. So do that so that Dr. Levy, whenever he has an article, because I got this article sent to me on my website, so on my email. So do the same. When that's how you stay connected to these new truths. So let's talk about another thing that I learned in your article, which is the reversal of dementia. So let's talk about reversing, niacin. I mean, is this something that they've done enough trials for, or is there, is this anecdotal?
Well, dementia shares a lot of common characteristics with schizophrenia or any
Yes.
other brain CNS mental disorder,
Mhm.
which is the good old increased oxidative stress in the affected cells that are dealing with a certain condition. Now, the thing about dementia, and dementia shares this with schizophrenia,
Mhm.
which is when it's been present for a long enough period of time, and the increased oxidative stress inside many of the cells has been periodically pushed to the point of cell necrosis and death. As time goes on, brain volume actually decreases, and you have scarring of the tissue where you used to have viable neurons. So in a situation like that, even though you can still get tremendous improvement with things like niacin and everything else we're talking about to improve ATP production, you start to bring down and reduce and optimally even normalize oxidative stress in the remaining cells. You can still get a great deal of improvement, but you're not going to get the complete resolution that you'd like. On the other hand, and this is covered in the article, for younger people that have an acute onset of schizophrenia, they haven't had it for years, they haven't been institutionalized, they haven't been doing nothing basically for the inflammation in their brain that continues to kill the cells. When you initiate Dr. Hoffer's measures and the things that I'm talking about, you will get a complete resolution, yes, cure the vast majority of the time with acute onset schizophrenia. And you'll get a dramatic result in chronic schizophrenia, but less and less and less the longer and longer and longer the schizophrenia had been present before you're able to start the vitamin, mineral, nutrient restitution therapy.
So let's talk about these deficiencies, because we've talked about adding niacin and supplementing I don't know if we've really talked about chronic encephalitis and the causes of that. Have you
Well,
done?
the one thing I want to make a point there, and this is why I entitled the article that is, we think, doctors and lay people tend to think that schizophrenia is just this disease of the brain, okay? And it's just a state that there's nothing you can do about. When in fact, the literature shows that 100% of 100% of schizophrenia has neuroinflammation. It has inflammation of the cells in the brain. Now, inflammation is itis. If you have muscular inflammation, you have myositis. If you have heart inflammation, you have myocarditis.
Carditis.
And if you have inflammation of the brain, you have encephalitis. So we usually think of encephalitis as being an acute onset from a virus, which sometimes occurs even with schizophrenia. There's a little crossover there. But once you get rid of the inflammatory component, you start to get resolution. So I wanted to make it clear in the title that schizophrenia is not some sort of exotic condition that you can't put your finger on. It's a state of chronic inflammation of the brain, which is chronic encephalitis. And when you can put in things that reduce that inflammation, reduce that oxidative stress, while at the same time increasing ATP production, magic happens.
You know, I hope this video is shared multiple times by your friends. Just keep sharing it, because, another story that I remember, because this is all coming back to, this is back in 2013 that I was doing this, that I learned about this, and you just get forgetful. I got forgetful about it because I thought that the reason why I was having a hard time sleeping, it was because of the niacin. But I'll try it again and see what happens. And so he told the story. Dr. Andrew
And
Salt
if it
told
does
us.
happen with the niacin, don't stop there. Stop the niacin and try the niacinamide.
Okay, 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 I'll try that, because I'm thinking that the only thing that was different was the flashing. One causes the flashing and the other one doesn't.
That's the main difference, not necessarily the only difference.
Okay, the main difference. So Dr. Andrew Salt told a story about an insane asylum that they added niacin to the bread, and they got within a short period of time, everybody got released. So they
Well,
know
you
this for a long
recall
time.
as critical as I've been about supplementation and enrichment of foods and the iron that we've talked about and the ridiculous iron filings that they've been poisoning the whole planet with, they also included niacin in that original enrichment of the food. And in fact, the cases of pellagra, which is the classical niacin deficiency syndrome that you get, just like you get scurvy with vitamin C deficiency, all of a sudden pellagra started disappearing. So you clearly had a profound effect on that vitamin deficiency disease. I don't know that it was effectively still a positive intervention unless you could stop the iron supplementation as well.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we have about 2 minutes left in the classroom. What would you say are the main takeaway points? Because in your article, you have like let's recap. This is a conclusion type of thing. What would you say, if somebody's just tuning in right now, what would you say is the crucial part of this class today?
Well, the crucial parts of this class today is, I mean, if you can find a good integrative doctor that can help you out and discuss things with you and intelligently talk about the things that we're talking about now, that's great. But if you're stuck with a traditional doctor that just refuses to entertain anything else, yet for whatever reason, the doctor's been with you in the family all these years and he or she's too much of a friend, you're not going to get rid of him. Well, that's your choice. Bad choice, but that's your choice. The thing is you don't need the doctor to start supplementing properly with vitamins, minerals, okay? And some doctors will get hysterical that you're doing anything without their approval. Well, the heck with them, okay?
You don't need
I
no
mean,
stinking approval.
any doctor that says don't take vitamin C, don't take vitamin D, don't take magnesium, wow, they're not helping your health at all. So if you're going to stick with a doctor who's not pro supplement, hey, supplement on your own, okay? Supplement on your own. it doesn't have to be astronomical doses. We talk about what maximal suggested doses are, but taking 500 milligrams of niacin or niacinamide, 50 or 100 milligrams of riboflavin, 1 or 200 milligrams of coenzyme Q10. All of those things can help enormously. They're all just about as safe as anything you can do. They're about as safe as eating a good meal.
And I will let that be the last word. Dr. Levy, you're always, I want to continue this conversation. I want to have you back because there's a lot more we didn't talk about that I would like to bring back. So maybe there'll be a part 2 in the future, and maybe we can do a part 2 and just put it up in BitChute only. That way you can really say what you really think. So let's do it. I want to thank you for bringing this up to my attention again, and why I reached out to you. Like I've got to get this information, because when I first learned about it, I was just dipping my toe in the natural, holistic, functional, integrative pool. And now, many years later, I am like deep in, I truly live that kind of lifestyle, and I'm excited to learn more with a new mindset. So thank you so much, Dr. Levy.
My pleasure, Lily.
And for those of you who want to tune in to Dr. Thomas Levy, you can go to tomlevymd.com. I just learned about this when you learned about it, so we all get to learn together. But thank you so much for watching today. Please share this video. It's the best way to get the algorithms to go out of here. So thank you so much, Dr. Levy, and we look forward to seeing all of you again. And please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Dr. Thomas Levy wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking